Omajnanatimandasya Hansana Shalaka Sakshvan Militam Yena Tasmai Skarave Nama Chitchitayamanobistam Stapatam Yena Bhutale Svamrabhakadam Amdadati Svapadantikam Vandeyam Siyo Seyuda Padakamalam Siyum Vaishnavamsa Shirupam Jarajatan Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Shratpate Gopesha Goprakanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansna Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvri Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamama Haripriye Vankha Kalptavasha Kripa Sindhevasha Padnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Nama Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnupada Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachari Dasatani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So at the end of the previous chapter, 23rd chapter, Devahuti lamented, said to Kardanama Muni, yes, we were for so long together, we enjoyed traveling in an airplane, a flying castle, all over the universe, enjoying, but I'm so troubled by these senses, and you are a great sage, and I lost my time, because one must take advantage of a liberated person, a great sage. So please give me liberation from material bondage. And then in this chapter, in the beginning, Kardama Muni will reply. And then after that, Kardama Muni will tell to Mother Devotee, if you follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, the Lord will be pleased, and He will appear in your womb as an incarnation, Kapila Muni. And then in verses 5 to 8, we will hear about the descent of Kapila Muni, and then, of course, then all the demigods, they are very happy to see the appearance of Kapila Muni, and they come down, especially the head, Lord Brahma, will speak, and Lord Brahma will offer prayers to Kapila Muni. That's more or less the section we will cover today. And tomorrow, then we do the rest of the chapter. Lord Brahma, before departing, will request Kapila Muni to hand over his daughters to the sages so that he can engage in populating the universe, which is Lord Brahma's service. And then Kapila Muni hands over all these daughters to these sages, and all these sages are mentioned by name. And then you have Kardama Muni. Then, because Kapila Muni has appeared, and Kardama Muni approaches him in a secluded place. He's offering prayers to him, asking his blessings, to take Vanaprastha and so on. And then Lord Kapila will reply to Kardama Muni, and with the blessings of Lord Kapila, then Kardama Muni leaves to take Vanaprastha, fixing his mind on the Supreme Lord. Now, in this section of today, before we go to it, there are particular points which are important to remember. And I mentioned them before. We will now go to the section, but keep these points in your mind. And the first is that, the potency of the Lord that allows him to appear in any way he desires. Especially that's explained in the purport of text 6. And the next point is we will hear about the benefits one achieves by carrying out the order of the spiritual master. So these are very important points, also especially the last points for our progress in devotional service. But now first we will go into the text. Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 24. I would like to ask your cooperation and help to read the translations. We will not go to all the purports, but I will mention the main points that which are stressed in the purport. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Maitreya Uvacha Nirvede Vadinim Evam Manor Duritaram Munim Dayalu Shalinim Maha Sukla Biryaritam Smaran. Can someone read text 1, please? Translation.
May I read?
Yeah, please, go.
Recalling the words of Lord Vishnu, the merciful sage Gardama replied as follows to Swami Manu's praiseworthy daughter, Devhuti, who was speaking words full of renunciation.
Thank you. Rishiyu Vacha Makidoracha Putritam Atmanam Prat Anidite Bhagavam Ksheksharo Garbam Aduratsam Papatshate. The sage said, "Do not be disappointed with yourself, O princess. You are actually praiseworthy. The infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead will shortly enter your womb as your son." Now text 3. Dritavratasi bhatram te damena niyamena cha tapodra vinadanascha shradaya shesvaram bhaja. Can someone read the translation, please?
I can read.
Please do. Please do.
You have undertaken sacred vows. God will bless you. Hence you should worship the Lord with great faith through sensory control, religious observances, austerity, and gifts of your money in charity.
Very good. Purport. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, in order to spiritually advance, to achieve the mercy of the Lord, one must be self-controlled in the following manner. And Srila Prabhupada mentions 4 points. 4 points. The first point is, he must be restrained in sense gratification. That's an important instruction. 2, one must follow the rules and regulations of religious principles. 4 relative principles, things to do, things not to do. We have to engage in 9 forms of devotional service, at least some of them. And then austerity and penance, Srila Prabhupada. An important quality for a devotee, austerity and penance. Austerity means that one voluntarily gives up sense gratification. So, as it's mentioned in an Arjuna asked Krishna about the qualities of one who is spiritual advanced, who has transcended the modes, then Krishna says, well, it's one who eats frugally, very little. So we eat what we need. We have the sense gratification that we need, but nothing beyond that. And then sacrifices one's riches to giving charity. That, of course, we know in Bhagavad Gita, you have to give charity to the right person, the Krishna conscious person. And at the right time, and should be so many other conditions, mode of goodness. So Kardama Muni, he advised his wife, you have to engage in devotional service. And this with austerity and penance, following the regulative principles and giving charity. These 4 points. And then he says, then the Supreme Lord will be pleased with you, and he will come as your son. And then text 4. Svataya ridaita sukto vitam van mamakam yasa chitate hridaya grantim audaryo brahma bhavana. The personality of God that being worshipped by you will spread my name and fame. He will vanquish the knot of your heart by becoming your son and teaching knowledge of Brahman. So spiritual knowledge, Srila Prabhupada said, vanquishes the knot of the heart. So this matter and spirit are knotted together by false ego, and the knot becomes more and more tightened when one has too much affection for sex life. For people who hanker after material possessions, society, friendship, and love, this knot of affection becomes very strong. It is only by, and that's interesting, Brahma Bhavana. Brahma Bhavana is the instruction by which spiritual knowledge is enhanced, that the knot in the heart can be cut to pieces. It requires bona fide spiritual instruction. So Lord Kapiladev will appear as the son of Devahuti and disseminate spiritual knowledge to cut the knot of material identification. That's why he's appearing. That's its purpose. And we will hear more about that. Text 5. And now Maitreya is speaking again. Maitreya Uvacha Devayutrapishan Desham Kauravena Prajapate Samyakshadya Purusham Kutastam Abhajat Kurum. Can someone read the translation, please?
Sri Maitreya Devahuti was fully faithful and respectful towards the direction of her husband, Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis or generators of human beings in the universe. O great sage, she thus began to worship the Master of the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So he instructed her to achieve spiritual knowledge, spiritual perfection. So by that, naturally, he is her spiritual master also. Srila Prabhupada writes, and that's interesting in the purport, the duty of a husband should be so enlightened that he should become the spiritual master of his wife in order to enlighten him. Yeah, that's ideal, I would say. Many times it's the other way also. I've seen that the wife is more advanced than the husband. But that is the principle in the Vedic culture, in the Vedic system. So, in the second paragraph of the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur speaks on the instruction of the spiritual master. So can someone read this second paragraph, please?
I can read again, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Here it is clearly said, Samyak Shraddhaya, that with great faith one should receive knowledge from the spiritual master, and with great faith execute the performance of service. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita has especially stressed the instruction of the spiritual master. One should accept the instruction of the spiritual master as one's life and soul. Whether one is liberated or not, one is liberated or not, one does not have to seek the Lord outside. He is already there. One simply has to concentrate on one's worship in good faith as instructed by the bona fide spiritual master, and one's effort will come out successfully. It is also clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not appear as an ordinary child. He appears as he is. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, he appears by his own internal potency, Atma Maya. And how does he appear? He appears when pleased by the worship of a devotee. A devotee may ask the Lord to appear as her son. The Lord is already sitting within the heart, and if he comes out of the body of a devotee, it does not mean that the particular woman is mother in the material sense. He is always there, but in order to please his devotee, he appears as her son.
Yeah, it's not easy to understand this with our conditioned mind. So one should execute the instruction of the spiritual master with great faith. That requires intelligence in how to apply that in the Hare Krishna movement. Because, we have the spiritual master, the Diksha Guru, but also many Shiksha Gurus. And the Diksha Guru gives us instructions and we try to follow it. But sometimes it may be overruled by higher authorities, by the GBC or whatever. Because that's also the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada instructed, yes, that GBC is the highest authority. So that's not always easy to apply in our movement. It requires intelligence and but it's an important instruction So the Lord appeared. He appeared that it is. You know, I started with bringing these two topics in the beginning. And the first, you remember the slide, describe the potency of the Lord that allows him to appear in any way he desires. And here that potency in the purport is here explained as Atma Maya, by his eternal potency. So he can appear as the son of his devotee. But that does not mean that that he is the son of his devotee, he plays the role. Because as reciprocation of love, that is very interesting, and we will hear more about that potency of the Lord that allows him in any way he desires in text 6. Tasyambahu tirte kale bhagavan madhusudana karnamam viya apano chakhet nir ivadaruni. Can someone read the translation, please?
After many years, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudan, the killer of the demon Madhu, having entered the semen of Kardama, appeared in Devahuti just as fire comes from wood in a sacrifice.
Yes, so Srila Prabhupada explains the Lord is independent in his action. He is not an ordinary living entity forced to take birth. We are karmana devanetrena. We are forced to appear. We are forced to appear in a certain family, in a certain body, and we are thrown as a soul into this machine. But Krishna is not like that. He is not forced. He is independent. He can appear by his Atma Maya, by his eternal energy, and we have seen he can appear how he likes. He appeared from the pillar in Hiranyakashipu's palace as Lord Nrsingadev. He appeared as Varaha from the nostrils of Brahma. So he can appear in whatever way he wants. But now text 8, 7 and 8. 7. Avadayam stata vyoni vyatitrani gana gana kayanti tam smagandharva nrityant apsaraso muda. Can someone read the translation? 7.
At the time of his descent on earth, demigods in the form of raining clouds sounded musical instruments in the sky. The celestial musicians, the Gandharvas, sang the glories of the Lord, while celestial dancing girls known as Apsaras danced in joyful ecstasy.
It seems these demigods are everywhere present because they are ruling the earth through all the elements. Wherever there is heat, there is Agni. Wherever there is water, there is Varuna, and so on. The air, Vayu. And they have heard also this discussion between Maitreya and Vidura, and so they all, they have heard the discussion between Kardama and Devahuti, because they are master of the senses. So they were informed, and they all came. They all were very enthusiastic with musical instruments in the sky. It became a whole festival. The Apsaras were there, were dancing, that the Lord is coming. Now, text 8. Petu sumana sodivya kecharer apavarchita vashedu sadisa sarva ambamsi samamamsi cha. At the time of the Lord's appearance, the demigods flying freely in the sky showered flowers all the directions, all the waters, and everyone's minds became very satisfied. So they could travel through the air without being hampered. So that is this interplanetary travel. And Srila Prabhupada speaks about residents of Siddhaloka, how they can travel from one planet to another without any impediment, not being hampered. So, yes, text 9. Tat kardama sama padam saravatya parishritam Swayambhu Sakam Rishibir Marichatibir Apyayat. Can someone read, please, the text translation and also the purport?
Brahma, the first-born living being, went along with Marichi and other sages to the place of Kardam's hermitage, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. Purport: Brahma is called Swambhu because he is not born of any material father and mother. He is the first living creature and is born from the lotus which grows from the abdomen of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Therefore, he is called Swambhu, self-born.
Yeah, therefore Brahma is Swayambhu, is born from the abdomen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That, text 10. Bhagavantam Param Brahma Sattvanam Sena Sattvahan Tattva Sankyana Vihyaptyai Chatam Vitvam Ajasvarat. Someone can read the translation, Matveya.
O killer of the enemy, the unborn Lord Brahma, who is almost independent in acquiring knowledge, could understand that a portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his quality of pure existence, had appeared in the womb of Devhuti just to explain the complete state of knowledge known as Sankhya Yoga. Hare Krishna.
So this purport is important. It explains about the purpose of the appearance of Kardama Muni and also about Sankhya Yoga. Can someone read the first paragraph in Bhagavad Gita?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, I can read.
Please.
In Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, it is stated that the Lord himself is a compiler of Vedanta Sutra, and he is a perfect knower of Vedanta Sutra. Similarly, the Sankhya philosophy is compiled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his appearance as Kapila. There is an imitation Kapila, who has a Sankhya philosophical system, but Kapila, the incarnation of God, is different from that Kapila. Kapila is the son of Kardama Muni in his system of Sankhya philosophy, very explicitly explained not only the material world but also the spiritual world. Brahma could understand this fact because he is Swarat, almost independent in receiving knowledge. He is called Swarat because he did not go to any school or college to learn, but learned everything from within. Because Brahma is a first living creature within this universe, he had no teacher. His teacher was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who is seated in the heart of every living creature. Brahma acquired knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord within the heart. Therefore, he is sometimes called Swarat and Aja.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's we heard in the first verse of the Bhagavatam that Janmadhyasyyatam Prayatitaratas Satissa Vihya Svarat. That yes. Now, in the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada speaks about Suddha Sattva, pure goodness. Can someone read this second paragraph, please?
Maharaj, you can read.
Yes, please.
Another important point is stated here. Sattva Nansena. When the Supreme Personality of God appears, he brings with him all his paraphernalia of Vaikuntha. Therefore, his name, his form, his quality, his paraphernalia, and his entourage all belong to the transcendental world. Real goodness is in the transcendental world. Here in the material world, the quality of goodness is not pure. Pure goodness may exist, but there must also be some tinge of passion and ignorance. In the spiritual world, the unalloyed quality of goodness prevails. There, the quality of goodness is called Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. Another name for Shuddha Sattva is Vasudeva, because God is born from Vasudeva. Another meaning is that when one is purely situated in the qualities of goodness, he can understand the form, name, quality, paraphernalia, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Anshena also indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appears as Kapil Dev in the portion of his portion. God expands himself as Kala or as Ansha. Ansha means direct expansion, and Kala means expansion of the expansion. There is no difference between the expansion of the expansion, and the Supreme Personality of God directly, as there is no difference between one candle and another. But still, the candle from which the others are lit is called the original. Krishna, therefore, is called the Parabrahma, or the ultimate Godhead, and cause of all causes. Thank you.
So Amsena means that the Lord appeared as a portion of a portion. Also this Suddha Sattva, this pure goodness, is a requirement to understand the form, name, quality, paraphernalia, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of God. That means unless we come to Krishna consciousness, which is Suddha Sattva, transcendental consciousness, the Lord will not reveal to him his form, name, quality, and so on. So this revelation starts at the level of Ashakti, after liberation. Liberation is Nishtha. And then Ruchi, we become very much attracted because we have reached the level of Atmaram. Atmarama Samunye, you remember this verse. Atmaram becomes automatically attracted to Krishna. Then Ruchi comes, great attraction, and then Krishna starts to reveal himself from within the heart, and the revelation starts in the sequence mentioned here. His form, his name. So one sees Krishna's form in his heart. Krishna reveals it. And then his qualities, his sweetness, his beauty, and so on. Then his entourage, you start to see the spiritual world around him. And then his associates. And then one enters the aprakat lila of the Lord, the unmanifested pastimes, that and one sees the spiritual world in the heart. But these are very high realizations. Usually it takes about 30, 40 years or a whole lifetime to come to Nishtha, to come to the liberated platform. Text 11. Sabhajam Sabhajayan Visudena Siddhasatat Shikirshitam Paryashyamaner Asubi Kardamam Shedam Abyadat. Can someone read the translation, please?
After worshipping the Supreme Lord with gladdened senses and a pure heart for his intended activities as an incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kardama and Devahuti. Should I read further?
No, won't. So anyone who understands the transcendental activities, the appearance and the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is considered liberated. But we heard in the previous purport, Srila Prabhupada writes about Suddha Sattva. We must attain Suddha Sattva to really understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. So it's not so easy. Just thinking I understand. But understanding the transcendental activities of the Lord means understanding who Krishna is, and then realizing who we are, a part and parcel of Krishna, a servant of Krishna, and then engage in devotional service. And these are three elements: knowing who Krishna is, who we are, and engage in devotional service, which is part of Sambandha, re-establishing our relationship with Krishna. So that is a very important point. Unless we engage in devotional service, we cannot gain that understanding. But one who engages in devotional service, his heart becomes pure, and then he can understand the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Lord. One is liberated. So Brahma, therefore, he's a liberated soul. He was in full knowledge of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, of course, if one can become the father or the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must be a great devotee. So Brahma, therefore, he not only worshipped the incarnation of Godhead, Kapila, but also praised his so-called father, Kardama Muni. He's praising also Kardama Muni here. So because Kardama Muni has followed the instructions of Brahma, that he has followed the orders of the spiritual master. And now we will hear about these benefits that one achieves by carrying out the order of the spiritual master. The benefits, because that's one of the points we made in the beginning that we can learn here. What are the benefits we get by carrying out the order of the spiritual master? That we hear in text 12. Brahma vachat vaye me pasitis tata kalpita nirvyalikata yame sangragine vakyam bhavan manadamanayan. Someone can read the translation. Lord Brahma start to speak, please.
Lord Brahma said, "My dear son Kardama, since you have completely accepted my instructions without duplicity, showing them proper respect, you have worshipped me properly, and thereby you have..."
So whatever instructions you took from me, you have carried out, and therefore you have honored me. So Brahma is praising Kardama Muni. Why? Because he carried out his orders. He carried out orders of the spiritual master, and Srila Prabhupada makes the point, he carried out his orders of the spiritual master in toto, without cheating. So, and then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives one important benefit of following the orders of the spiritual master. If one carries out the order of the spiritual master by disciplic succession, he overcomes the four defects. Four defects. There's no cheating potential. No cheating. There's there's the knowledge he receives is not it's not bewildered or changed by defect senses that so that's one. That's the first thing he said. But the main principle described here is to, when we want to honor the spiritual master, to puja for the spiritual master, we do that by carrying out his instructions. And Srila Prabhupada explains word for word at the end. To honor the spiritual master means to carry out the instructions word to word. That's so. No need for interpretation. That 13. So Brahma continues. Verse 13, just a moment. Etavatyeva susosha karya pitare putrakai bodham iti anumanyeta kauravena grovacha. Sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, "Yes, sir." So means whatever the father or the spiritual master ordered should be accepted without argument. The disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. That's one. We see Srila Prabhupada got the order to go to the West, and it took him many years to fulfill that order, but he was always preparing for that. He was translating and so on, and worked steadily to the day he could go to the West. So a disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instructions in that way, he is sure to become perfect. So that is another benediction. We heard before, one becomes free from four defects, and here one will become perfect. And Srila Prabhupada quotes in the purport, and he quotes that so many times, this verse from Svetasvara Upanishad. The import of the Vedic instruction is revealed automatically to one who has implicit faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in his spiritual master. Yes, Svetasvara Upanishad. Now text 14. Imadu hitara satyas tavavatsa sumatyama sargametam prabhavaisvar premayishyanti anekada. Can someone read the translation, please?
Lord Brahma then praised Pargama Muni's 9 daughters, saying, "All your 10 wasted daughters are certainly very chaste. I'm sure they will increase this creation by their own descendants in various ways."
So that's Brahma's interest he sees the daughters and he says they are going to increase the population, and he praises them because that was the instruction he received to the heart to organize to increase the population of the universe. In the beginning of the creation it was empty, and these daughters would help him. So he praises them that, and he will make a request, to Kardama Muni, that in the next verse and the last verse for today, 15, Atastvam Rishimukkebhyo Yata Silam Yata Ruchi Atmaja Parideyatya Vishtini Yaso Bhuvi. Therefore today please give away your daughters to the foremost of the sages with due regard for the girl's temperaments and likings, and therefore spread your fame all over the universe. So interesting. The daughter should be handed over to the respective rishis, he says, not blindly, but according to the combination of character and taste. And that's interesting. And then Srila Prabhupada starts to speak about astrology. That, yes. And in astrology, I will show you. This is an astrological chart. And if we go to D9, Navamsa, and that is important in one's chart to see the combination to determine your success in marriage, Navamsa chart. And Srila Prabhupada writes, the parents used to astrologically determine the character and taste of the boy and girl, and when they corresponded, the match was selected. So astrology is the calculation of your karma. We are born, we heard in the Bhagavad in the first canto, Tasheva ita prayate kovto talapyate yad brahmatam yuparata talapyate dukavam anyata sukam kalin sarvada kapira ramasa. Now the Muni says to Srila Vyasadeva, you should search for this happiness, which is not available, from the lowest to the highest planet. But what happiness in this world is concerned, Narada Muni says, it's already fixed from your birth, all the happiness. And you don't need to strive for it, because it comes in the same way as distress comes. Distress we don't want, but it comes. So this happiness and distress you can read from your chart. But not only that, also your material nature. That's by the Lagna, especially, your nature is there, the ascendant. And in a subchart, T9, Navamsa, there they can determine the success of marriage and the likings and how it is combined. Right? It will be a bit too long to go into these matters, but Srila Prabhupada says yes, they used to consult with astrologers. Of course, today there are no good astrologers. That requires to be highly situated in goodness. that it's very difficult. It's a great science. I'm studying it for 20 years, but yeah, still, I'm a neophyte in the job. That so if parents used to astrologically determine the character and taste of the boy and girls, are they compatible? Are they corresponding? And then the match was selected, Srila Prabhupada says. That, so we will go back to the text. Can someone read the first paragraph where Srila Prabhupada speaks about these sages?
Read Maharaj.
Please.
The 9 principal rishis or sages are Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, Vashishta, and Atharva. All of these rishis are most important, and Brahma desired the 9 daughters already born of Karna Muni be handed over to them. Here 2 words are used very significantly, Yatha Shilam and Yatha Ruchi. The daughters should be handed over to the respective rishis not blindly, but according to the combination of character and taste. That is the art of combining a man and woman. Man and woman should not be united simply on the consideration of sex life. There are many other considerations, especially character and taste. If the taste and character differ between the man and woman, their combination will be unhappy. Even after 40 years, about 40 years ago, in Indian marriages, the taste and character of the boy and girl were first of all matched, and then they were allowed to marry. This was done under the direction of the respective parents. The parents used to astrologically determine the character and taste of the boy and girl, and when they corresponded, the match was selected. This girl and this boy are just suitable, and they should be married. Other considerations were less important. The same system was also advised in the beginning of the creation by Brahma. Your daughters should be handed over to the rishis according to taste and character.
Yeah, but then in Srila Prabhupada writes that in Kali Yuga, the 12th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam predicts married life will be accepted on the consideration of sex only. That is not actual marriage, but a combination of man and woman like cats and dogs. Therefore, the children produced in the modern age are not actually human beings. That's quite a statement here. That they are not actually exactly human beings. Human beings must be twice born. That's yeah. That's more or less what's in the last paragraph. So it's now 6:25. We will pause 10 minutes till 6:35, and then we will have discussions. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, so we can continue. We heard the Brahma praising Kardama Muni to follow his order. We will see in the next canto, I think 4th canto, there Priyavrata is requested by Lord Brahma to become the emperor. And then Narada Muni, spiritual master of Priyavrata, comes, and Priyavrata Maharaj was doing austerities in the Himalayas, and he was a brahmachari, and he said, I feel complete satisfied if I have to become a king, I have to enter Shasta life. Is that not dangerous for me? He asked Narada Muni, and Narada Muni said, yes, you just remain a brahmachari. But then Lord Brahma came down on his swan, telling Priyavrata Maharaj, you should, I order you to become the emperor of the whole world. Please follow my instructions. So he overruled the instruction of Narada Muni. But Priyavrata Maharaj asked the same question. Is that not dangerous for my spiritual life? I'm going to enter Shasta ashram and create attachments. And the reply of Brahma was, I'm giving you the same order as I've received from Krishna, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm giving you the same order. As long as you focus on that order, you will not be bewildered by illusion. So that we hear there again the importance of following the order of the spiritual master. And we have heard here about the benefits of following the order of the spiritual master. So I wanted to ask you, what are your experiences with that? Experiences, and that are you always able to execute the orders of the spiritual master, or sometimes you have obstacles? Please share.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I see that the instruction we receive from spiritual master orders based on, he knows how much surrender we can do. So he orders accordingly. So that's very nice, first of all. I'm a Grahastha, and before that, I was Brahmachari. Certainly they were, he was stretched, but after becoming Grahastha, he would order things that I could follow. And of course, I was engaged. My main service was preaching in a local center, supporting the center, and also temple construction. So it being unique, it was not a common service that people could do. Master Bhaktivaibhava Maharaj was pleased with me. Actually, he said, "You're doing well." He used to say like this. But I always felt he was being merciful. He was not asking me beyond my comfort zone. So that's an observation I always made. But I have to stretch myself out of the comfort zone to go, to make further progress. That's another thing.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Ajay.
Thank you.
Advaita Krishna Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. Well, initial years, I was following very, very strictly. And my whole focus was to please the spiritual master from morning to evening as a brahmachari doing sankirtan and always going out and trying to please the spiritual master. And it was very blissful, and it was also very enlivening, and everything was very positive. But then the mishaps happened, the spiritual masters left, and then it took maybe 10-15 years out of my faith in the spiritual master. Twice within 2 years, 2 spiritual masters went, and therefore when I got reinitiated by Bhakti Maharaj, it took me a long time to develop faith So in the initial years, it was very difficult for me, and it was very painful. But fortunately, I had faith in other personalities, especially my local Sriniketan Prabhu, Archana Prabhu, and some Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. So I carried on, but it was very difficult to have that faith. And it is probably the most unfortunate thing can happen to a disciple. But then I slowly picked up, and after 1999, I started following more and more. And now I am able to follow everything that I was expected to follow, or mostly, I would say everything, but mostly I was expected to follow for my spiritual master. But one thing that he was very kind, Guru Maharaj was very kind upon me, and he said, "You always have a heart for preaching, so please." He didn't give me any more very specific instructions, and he said, "Just stay in ISKCON and carry on preaching the best you can, and study and carry on preaching." So it's according to my nature, and that was actually very, very merciful of him. So I am able to, follow, but of course, purely it's very difficult. Motivated, yes, but trying. So,
yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's very important, this point that you make about engagement according to our nature, or as Ajahn Prabhu said, engaging according to the capacities we have. And that's certainly a function of the spiritual master. But I'm thinking about different points here, or things that I heard. Mother Narayani is a Prabhupada disciple. She was one of the first pujaris, head pujari in Calcutta when they started. And she and her husband was traveling with Srila Prabhupada in India. I don't know from where to where, but at a certain moment, Srila Prabhupada told them, to both of them, husband and wife, at the next train stop you get out and you start the center there. That was quite an instruction.
yeah.
But I remember also another, and maybe you know her, but I'm not going to mention her name. But she joined in Mauritius, and she became a disciple of Bhakti Maharaj. And but she was from France. She served for 1 year in Mauritius, and then she had to leave. But Bhakti Maharaj instructed her to go back to Mauritius and preach there. But she was French, and she could not get a visa anymore. It was not possible at that moment, that's 30 years ago. And she could not execute the order of her spiritual master. So sometimes it's challenging to follow the instruction of the spiritual master. Yeah. And any other sharing?
Maharaj, more I read Srimad Bhagavatam, like your association with other leaders here that we had, I feel that I could have served Maharaj better, my spiritual master better, and I didn't do it. And I just repent all of them. Could have served him better. Actually, I blame why it didn't happen, because I did not have the right knowledge. As I'm increasing my knowledge, I feel that I could have served better. So it's lack of knowledge, that was the cause, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I was reading a few. This is a few days ago. I was in New Mayapur in France, and we celebrated there the second Tirobhav of Bhakti Charamaj. And because you are saying, Ajaparu, that I could have served better. But I saw in Bhakti Charamaj this is attachment to Srila Prabhupada and his instructions. And it seems to be that taking that very serious is part of maturing in devotional service. And of course, we are all connected to Srila Prabhupada also, because I've learned to see, when I think of Srila Prabhupada, I think also of Bhakti Charamaj. They're always connected in my mind. I never see them different. That because, if we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, then we receive all the blessings. But this was it was 5 years ago. I was at the Bhaktivaibhava Manor in London. And my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charamaj, gave initiation to many of his aspiring disciples. And many of them were graduates from Bhakti Shastri course that I gave. And my Guru Maharaj asked to speak. And I was just sitting near to him, and I had to speak in his presence, what was embarrassing. But I asked him that, so, please bless me. I asked for his blessings before I spoke. And he told me, no. He was pointing to the deity of Prabhupada. And he said, that's where the blessings come from. So this is his attachment to Prabhupada. And I've here is Vyatsa Puja offering from 1987. How he speaks about his instruction of the spiritual master and how important it is for him. He says, if I do not remain true to you, Srila Prabhupada, so that means if I do not follow your instructions, I lose everything that I spiritually gained. Then my heart will become hard as a thunder, and my conscience will become eternally maimed. With a little knowledge about the spiritual sky, I'll think myself a liberated soul, not knowing that I am just a conceited fool. I forgot forever my ultimate goal, lust, greed, anger, and other vices with their incredible force will invade my heart. Soldiers of Maya, enemy of Krishna. It goes on like that, but he's saying here, we have discussed the benefits of following the spiritual master's order, but if we do not follow, what's going to happen? And he vividly describes this here. But that is 1987. And he had such a maturity. At that time, he was 10 years in the movement. Most of us are for a few decades already in the movement here. I think most of us. But he was 10 years in the movement. Think about yourself when you were 10 years in the movement. Did you have that maturity? No. But what orders did he get from Srila Prabhupada? He gave the order to translate Srimad Bhagavatam, all these books in Bengali. And he did that with great faith and conviction. If you have to translate the Bhagavatam, you must think of each word, and very deeply. So by that, he became very quickly advanced. That was the mercy. Just by following the instruction of his spiritual master. Paradeva Parabhaktir. This is this verse from, Svetasvatari Upanishad, when we have faith in the instructions of the spiritual master and following them, all the imports of the Vedas were revealed from within the heart, and that's Krishna consciousness. We follow the order of the spiritual master, and it's revealed within the heart. Krishna says that Dami Buddhyoram Tam Yenam Apayantate. I give the realization to the heart, but there is one condition. Satatam, Tesham Satayuktanam, Tesham Satayuktanam, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. A little love, Krishna says. But we don't have that little love. Love, pure love, comes after liberation. But we follow the order. If we follow the order of the spiritual master, Krishna accepts that as Priti Purvakam, a little love, and by that we make advancement. And that we need faith in these words of Svetasvatara Upanishad. A little faith and following the instructions of the spiritual master. But like I said, it may be difficult to execute it, the order. But if you start to execute it, Krishna will empower you. Does anyone has that experience? You start to execute it, and Krishna empowers me beyond your imagination. Someone has that experience?
May I add something, Maharaj, with your permission?
Yes, sure.
You actually, thank you so much. Because you actually spoke my heart. Because it was difficult for me even after I got initiated by Bhakti Maharaj. But because he was so merciful, because I was following Prabhupada, I never got out of his corner or stopped serving. If it hadn't been for him, I don't know what I would do. So I was following Prabhupada, but he just happened to intercede in between. And I had no faith even in him after I got initiated, but it slowly built up. So it's like because he was in line with what Prabhupada was trying to tell us to do so. So you spoke my heart. You expressed what I went through with Bhakti Maharaj, and I'm so grateful for you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Maharaj, is it possible to share what you just read? I really liked it.
I could share that. I can send it to WhatsApp to the secretary, and he can forward it to you. That's okay?
Yes, Maharaj, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you so much. And Maharaj, thank you for so nice words you spoke right now. If we follow the orders of spiritual master, then Krishna accepts that as Priti Purvakam.
Yeah.
I've never heard something like that before, and it really touched me. Thank you so much for it.
Yeah, I also have heard it through this disciplic succession, not coming from me. But,
like Bhakti Maharaj directed you, the mercy is coming from there. You are also following him. But thank you for sharing, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
So yes, following the order of the spiritual master, but there is also a second point we heard is that the importance of engaging ourselves according to our nature, especially applied here to marriage. And yes, in this Kali Yuga, this is very, very difficult. Very difficult. See also devotees many times divorce, 1 time, 2 times, you see. that it's one who stays married for many years is a hero. He's tolerant, otherwise you cannot do it in this age. But to avoid such issues, it's important to engage yourself to have relationships according to our nature. That anyway, any comments on that? Oh. Yes.
I am hearing all the senior duties, so I'm very scared. I'm very fearful from this situation, how the devotees are facing this situation. So just going back to Godhead to their spiritual master. So I also have this fear. So I don't know how the devotee face this situation. I always scared of this. Whenever this thought comes in my mind, I'm always scared. So it gives me very much pain. So I just, after hearing this, even not I understand how the devotees are having such a feeling, how they're continuing their devotional practice in this situation. The senior devotees are expressing there. So I'm not understanding this because I don't have such a it's not a matter of understanding and or knowledge or experience. It's above that. So how I will say, so what will be my strength? I I'm very scared of this.
Can you just repeat again in one sentence what you feel you are scared of?
How in one sentence suppose I say how the senior devotees or the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, how do they face this situation? What is their strength? They control their emotion and continue their service, and how do they develop faith towards other devotees after passing away their spiritual master?
Okay. I must say Bhakti Maharaj has now passed away for more than 2 years, and I feel still devastated by it. But I try my best to go on. And somewhere or another things are happening that but it's a very heavy thing for a disciple. But if you stick to try to following his instructions, you try your best. We may not be perfect, but you try your best. Then he's still there. He's still guiding us. That's my experience. That somewhere or another I'm continuing, and my preaching schedule has changed completely, and that's due to Bhakti Maharaj. Also, he has disappeared, so-called. That because now I had to make commitment to go twice a year to Ujjain to help them there, and twice a year to D-Land in Florida to help them with the project. And I feel that Guru Maharaj is helping. He's helping that his things, that his projects go on nicely, and I try my best to help. And it helps me to think of myself more as an instrument and forget myself. Because if we put ourselves in the center, then it becomes difficult. But if you just try to please the spiritual master and go on, then you will feel his presence still. So therefore this instruction today is important, that to remain connected with him spiritually, we have to stick as his instructions. And he gave so many beautiful instructions that that is important. Some way or another, stick to his instructions. And he gave so many instructions but his main instructions is putting Prabhupada in the center. And push forward his mission. That I remember always. Because I was once, because I'm a preacher in the Ukraine, I was there 2 months a year. I'm still preaching, but now each week I have Zoom classes. And it's very difficult for the devotees there. They just sent me pictures of 3 devotees who died in the war. And it's horrible. But still, devotees have faith there. They are also still going on, although they are devastated. But I know I was once in the Ukraine, that's 6-7 years ago, and I wrote to Guru Maharaj, I would like to come to your Vyasa Puja in Ujjain. I wrote him an email. And I wrote his email, and he replied within 10 minutes, he replied. And he wrote one sentence: you stay where you are, preaching in the Ukraine. This is not so important. So that is what pleases Bhakti Maharaj and pleases Srila Prabhupada. We push forth the preaching. Somewhere or another, we should be connected with the mission. Preaching means also supporting the temple, doing puja, all these things. Be connected. Stay connected. And then you stay connected with the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. And that keeps us alive. That's our lifeline. And that's my experience. That's what I'm trying to do. And it keeps me going on. Although the separation is very strong. Does that help? Anarpita Kripa Moya?
Yes, Mother.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good.
you, Mother.
Any other points you want to make?
Maharaj, there is a very interesting point I read in the purport of text 13 today.
Yeah.
If one carries out the order of spiritual master, or the master by disciplic succession, or the parampara system, he overcomes the 4 defects. That I never thought that we could overcome this like that, but if you just follow, we could overcome. And then the one more sentence, if you continue down in the same paragraph, verse 13. To honor the spiritual master means to carry out his instructions word for word.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I was thinking about the first thing, that one becomes free from the defects, from the 4 qualifications, that because, and Srila mentioned this 4, if we follow the instructions, we will not make mistakes. That's, yeah, that's the first thing. We will not be in illusion. That was the point of Lord Brahma to Priyavrata. You are afraid to be in illusion, but as long as you follow the order of Krishna, which I give to you, you will not be in illusion. But I'm prone to cheat others. this has nothing to do with cheating. That is transcendental service. And his senses are imperfect. That yes, we can be imperfect, but our desire, our intention is perfect. So this is in text 12 in the purport. Yeah. And then carry out this instruction word for word. Yeah. So we don't need big interpretations. We may need clarifications for we execute and ask the spiritual master that we understand it rightly. But once we understand it rightly, we execute it. Yes, word for word. So this is practical knowledge, I would say, how to deal with the instructions of the spiritual master. Prabhupada is very practical here. Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There's one more thing in verse number, the purport for verse 4.
Yeah.
No material weapon is needed to cut this knot. Knot means knot of the heart.
Yeah.
But it requires bona fide spiritual instruction.
Bona fide spiritual instruction. Yeah.
To cut the knot.
Yeah. That's important. That to cut this heart knot means cutting in the attachment and aversions that we have, that cause it. And if you follow the instructions, there is no question of material attachment and aversion. We do it just for the spiritual master. That's important. Nilamanipo, you wanted also to share something?
Yes, Maharaj, I just wanted to just say that sometimes in ISKCON, I think we also give a lot of emphasis to our Diksha gurus. And really, I think the context that spiritual master, the term spiritual master is used is in a broader term, right? Whether it's Diksha Guru or Siksha Guru also, right? And somehow we say that, hey, from orders from our Diksha Guru, that is something that we absolutely have to follow, because maybe we have multiple Siksha Gurus, or somehow we don't take the orders from Siksha Guru, in the same seriousness or same light. And I was reflecting on the fact that actually, it is recognized that, in ISKCON, for all of us, Srila Prabhupada is the preeminent Siksha Guru for all of us, right? So as his orders directly, we can try to imbibe and act on. Certainly we need a Diksha Guru, we need Siksha Gurus to help us understand those orders and apply them according to our nature and abilities and circumstances. But sometimes I just think we discount instructions we're getting from other sources.
That's a very important point. That otherwise we commit Vaishnava aparat, and that's what it is. Because in the 11th canto it is said, Lord Krishna says, Acharya ma vichaniyam, the Acharya is very dear to me, whether Siksha or Diksha, they are both Acharya. So Krishna doesn't make a difference there. Therefore, it's important if we receive specific instructions from the spiritual master, because we have to be clear here that there can be general instructions. Srila Prabhupada gives general instructions in his books, but when he gives specific instructions, we might have to consult with our local authorities and so on, with senior devotees, if we can execute it. So there must be consultation. That is important, because the Diksha Guru can give some instructions, but GBC is the ultimate authority and can override things. And that has to be considered in receiving the instruction of the spiritual master. It is therefore important in our movement, and that was Bhakti Sharamaj instructed that, because when I joined in the movement, there was at the end of the 80s, in Europe, Bhagavan had left and everything was falling apart. And some devotees had already taken 3 initiations and still the Guru fell down because they were all young boys and they were not so long in the movement. So it was a disaster. I was thinking I will not take so quickly initiation. But then I met Bhakti Charamaj and he instructed me. He said, you take initiation, you take instructions of everyone who is more advanced than you. And under that condition, I received initiation from him. And I saw Bhakti Sharamaj every year at the GBC meetings 1 hour, and we had some correspondence. But I was educated in preaching by Prahladhananda Swami. He was my Shiksha Guru for preaching. I was educated in the study of the Bhagavatam by Burijan Prabhu. I was instructed in deity worship by Premananda Siddhi Prabhu. That I learned from Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu. He's the GBC here in the area. And I worked with him for many years, and he had to tolerate so much. I learned from him tolerance. I was in the same ashram with Yadunanda Swami. At that time he was not a Swami. And I learned from him the importance of friendship between devotees. So I learned from many devotees and I think that is very important. If we think our Diksha Guru is everything, then that kind of groupism is a danger for our movement. And it is straight Vaishnava apparat, thinking I listen to my Guru and not to the others. So this is very important, Nilamani Prabhu. Thank you for bringing that up. So we are getting a little deeper in the subject matter now. Yes, Nilamani Prabhu, any comments?
No, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for sharing it and just putting some kind of context around the whole area.
Okay, I have to leave.
I wish we could have more discussion like this, Maharaj.
Yeah, but
because it's a very heart of devotional service.
We can have more discussions tomorrow, because I have to leave now. I have in 10 minutes a dentist appointment, and tomorrow then we discuss the last part, and we can also have discussions afterwards and continue. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Bol.